Surprise. Well, my name is Lana Levante, and I am here to uplift, support, and hopefully inspire and empower you to be the best version of you are meant to be and do. I'm also here to activate the supreme power within you to reign in your life. That's what we're really here to do, to poke and provoke one another. And just some people assume that someone's doing it intentionally to beat them up, or actually, you know what? Forget that. Everybody's got a story. I can create a story about other people's stories, and that doesn't make their story true. My story about your story is none of my business or yours too, right? Like, it's some crazy voodoo magic. This whole world of casting spells through stories we tell. You have to be more mindful and aware of how caught up we get in our own shit, our own stories. Because stories are just constructs of the mind. Doesn't make them factual or true. It's up to us to reveal what it is within us that attaches to those stories. And those stories become, over time, the more you think a story, the more you think a thought, it becomes a belief. And what becomes a belief? An identity, a part of you. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but maybe voluntarily you attach to it. And gosh forbid, we are the cause of our own struggles and suffering. Why? Because we create all these crazy stories, never questioning if they're true. Just like the belief systems we hold on to. Is it relevant? Is it true? Is it kind? Does it support me? Does it help me evolve and grow? Or does it hold me back from letting go and allowing myself to flow with life in general, with life fully? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unalienable rights. Have you ever noticed that word? You've got alienable and unalienable. Most people will pronounce it alienable or unalienable. But it really means, the word lien is in there. And what is a lien? It's something held against you. Or possibly tried to transfer or taken from you. If it's alienable or alienable, it means it can be held against you. It can be taken from you. It can be transferred away from you. Hello, 𝐕𝐤𝒑𝒂𝒍𝒐. Welcome to my channel. Unalienable means it cannot be taken from you. It cannot be transferred or denied of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so these are words that cast spells with the stories we tell. Most of the languaging that we utilize is what we were indoctrinated, and we think we know what they really mean, but we only have half of the story, half of the truth of the language, of the words, and every story that we tell. And if you've watched previous videos, I've talked about having half of the information and the fact that words are duplicitous in their meanings, meaning you only know half of the word and its meaning. If you only have a half truth, then you don't have the full truth, and you're left in the dark. Something to consider. So whenever we have a word, I'm going to start imploring you and recommending that you pull out the dictionary, pull out the law book. Look it up online, Cornell Library, for example, the law library. Look up in Black Law's dictionary, what do these words mean? When you think you know, you may learn you didn't have the full information. And so by learning, and really, this is the curiosity of a child. A child is always asking questions. Where did you lose your childlike wander and wonder for this world that we live in? So here's one of the reasons I know I incarnated into this life, and I say this for myself. We're here to play. And we got lost along the way. When we were children, we wanted to play. We became adults and we forgot. We got all serious with all this junk we got indoctrinated with. And we have to peel back the layers back to our inner child that's saying, help, I want to get out of this box. This is not what we signed up for. We forget to play. We forget to be creative, to express ourselves, to make our mark in the world like an artist with its palette, creating a scene, making music, dancing, living life in true harmony. That's really what we're here for. Life, the liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, here's the question. Do you feel you're living up to that? I would say the majority of people would say no. So what are you doing about it? Complaining is really simple, really easy. Hey, I'm a complainer from way back because, you know, as a lion, I roar. A lot of times when I get like worked up over something, if I'm feeling an injustice, I will roar like a lion. And then when I get off my chest, I purr like a kitty cat, like, okay, don't mind that, you know, I'm over it. I get it out of my system. I go to the gym, I work it out of my body. Yeah, everyone is acting out roles, but very few are rewriting their playwrights. We are capable. We are the manifestors of this reality. We are also the architects. And until you really step back and step into the awareness of all the world's a stage, and I created this too. I created the drama I see out there because it's a reflection of me inside too. If I spot it, it's only because I got it. I can't know it unless it's a part of me. And even though you may not think it does, it shows. And in the past, one of my favorite little sayings, we're all monkeys running around flinging our shit at one another, which are our unresolved, unmet needs and traumas. We just assume that if we fling our shit at people, people are going to figure out and know. You should know how to handle and deal with my ish when I throw it at you. But in reality, we're all living a shit show because our shit shows. And we don't own our shit. And when you don't own your shit owns you. And that's why it shows. So even when we think we don't look like we have issues, our issues are right out there on display. It's like you're painting with the shit palette. I'm just saying. This is just my way of dealing with the humor of life, because truly, I do find that the more you start owning it and recognizing that you're the creator of it because of the attachments, that's what creates our struggle. That's what creates our suffering, is our attachment to things needing to be different than they are instead of accepting them as they are. It doesn't mean it's not going to change. It doesn't mean it's ever going to meet your expectations either. But if you hold such a tight grip onto something needing to be a certain way, who really is the one creating the suffering? People not meeting you where you think they need to versus two people meeting each other where they're at. We're not going to know another person's struggle. We're not going to know another person's suffering or their traumas or their needs. This is where communication comes in. This is where it takes courage to be vulnerable and express, you know, I have hurts inside of me. But also being discerning. So this life, we got a whole lot of things we got to reflect upon. Like, be discerning with who you are sharing yourself with and who you allow to have access to you. Not everybody deserves access to you. And that's part of the evolution that we all go through, is that our inner child, I know my little inner child, it's like, oh my gosh, my inner child gets so excited when I meet new people and there's something we connect on. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for you all my life. It's like, you know, it's just kid in a candy store. It's another human. I see, my inner child sees your inner child. And then every once in a while, I'm kind of like, oh shit, their inner child sees me too, but the adult in them doesn't want to let it out. So they're withholding from themselves and withholding from others, because we can't withhold from another unless we're withholding from ourselves. When we lie to ourselves, that's why we lie to others. Because if we can't confront it, we're not going to be able to deal with it when it shows up around us. If you can't confront within, it will show up all along outside of you. And everything you think you can avoid will be up in your face. Because what you persist, what you resist, it will persist until you finally allow it. So, life does not need to be a struggle. It does not need to be a fight. But some people go in with both fists clenched, expecting, anticipating, and creating, and not realizing they created it. The reaction is because of the inaction, the inability to go within. You end up going without, right? It gets projected out. What you don't express, because you suppress, it will express. It will energetically draw those same experiences with different actors involved, you know? Same theme, same story, same movie, but just different actors show up to play it out with you. And as I've said before, your inner child will say, because you're not paying attention to me and we're not addressing this still unresolved wound within, I'm going to call in a third party energetically. I'm going to bring in more of this so we can try to resolve it outside of ourselves. This is always the hardest way to deal with it, because life is about relationship, and another person showing up to you is going to reflect the mirror of you. They're going to show you where you're at, how you relate to another's, ultimately showing and revealing how you are with yourself. And sometimes we overemphasize, or maybe we do more for another because we want that, and it's a form of manipulation. So you got to be really humble. You have to be willing to address this within yourself too. Be willing to honor, oh shit, you know, I'm overdoing it for others. I'm a people pleaser to the extreme. Pendulum swings way off the Richter scale, to the point where you're overdoing for another because you really, really desperately don't want to be rejected or abandoned, and you're hoping that will bring them into your circle tighter and stronger. That's a form of manipulation, no more than anything else. It may seem like, okay, well, you think you're being nice. Actually, French for nice is not a good word, but you think that you're being genuine, but in reality, that's disingenuine. We have to really address from all aspects of ourselves how we may be manipulating situations because we have an expectation. Just like somebody will say to you, a friend is this or a friend is not that. Everybody's got a different definition. Everybody's got a different idea of what that is for them. And if we don't communicate, we're not vulnerable enough and courageous enough to share, hey, this is what I expect out of this relationship. If you can't meet me, see, this is a form of manipulation. We tend to not say anything. And often by not saying anything, you're leaving it up to interpretation, which is what muddies the water, and that it actually hurts most relationships more often than you communicating and getting it out in the open. See how simple we can make this life? But people are afraid of being rejected. So instead of feeling like they can be authentic and share themselves in their vulnerability, hey, this is what I need. Can you meet me there? And then allow the person to also say, well, this is what I need as well. And also be honest with yourself. Can you meet that person there? Or are you just trying to hook them in and keep them around? Because even with our expectations, a lot of times we'll compromise ourselves because we're afraid of them leaving us. We're afraid of that abandonment. We're afraid of that rejection. But if you're not willing to be open and honest with yourself, first off, what's the worst that could happen? They're going to reject you. They're going to show you who they are. And I would rather not waste a lifetime of hooking someone with my own manipulation. That's me doing that to me, not them doing it to me. You hurt me because you couldn't meet me here in my expectations, but you never communicated it. So if you don't communicate it, who's really at fault? Who is really the one who tried to manipulate the relationship. See, we have to really, again, like I said, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to really look and go, was I fully honest with the other person? Was I honest with myself? And not only that, but if I wasn't honest with them, what else was I withholding from them? Because if you can't give your all, because that's all you got, then what do you expect in return? Because you enter with a lie. You're living a lie. That person's not who you think they are because you've got a different image of them. You have painted a picture of someone that isn't even true for them, and you're holding them hostage in the story that you created for them, instead of allowing them to be themselves and show up to you authentically as themselves, because you didn't show up authentically as yourself. This, I would say, is probably one of the most common themes in most relationships, is the lack of transparency, the inability to communicate, the withholdings, the lies, the projection of an identity that doesn't exist, the fantasizing of the other. Been there, done that. Okay, yeah. Probably have some t-shirts in the back, you know what I mean? And so when we really kind of unravel all the webbing, you know, we get through the cobwebs of our lives, we start to go, wow, at what other times in my life did I do that to someone else and to myself? Because this is a two-way street. What you do unto another, you do to yourself. And it started with self to begin with, because of the fact that you didn't feel you could be authentically yourself with the other, is because you aren't being honest with yourself. And so the lie always starts with yourself. And to have grace and create the space to not blame or shame yourself or another, that takes some serious evolution and growth, and really humbleness. That, wow, why was I like that? Where did that start? Whose voice do I hear in my head that told me I can't be my authentic self? Who told me they wouldn't accept me as I am? You have to unravel. You have to like go down your own rabbit hole, because the only way you can shine bright is to bring all that dark shadow up to the light. So people will talk about shadow work, they'll talk about doing the work, they'll talk about parts work, they'll talk about, there's so many different terms. But ultimately what it is it's the deep intimacy with yourself. It's the into me I see reflected out around me. We can't be intimate with another if we're not willing to do it with ourselves. There's so many different directions I could have gone with that. I'm just going to hold off because we're not going to make this a super long video. I just really wanted to get on here because the energies have been really amped up this past week. Ever since that full moon that also kind of took me off guard as well. But it was really beautiful because it revealed even for myself. And I'm not a lot of people know me. I'm just going to say I am very sensitive. I come across strong woman. I mean, I have people who just assume, because that's the way I come across, that I don't hurt, that I'm not sad, that I don't deal with stress or anxiety or depression, or like we're not meant to live there. I understand that for myself. But I also own that I have my own issues at times, that I am a human. I still bleed. I still cry. And like, there's nothing about me that says, I got all my shit together. Hey, we all lose our ish from time to time. We're not all perfect, but we are perfectly divine. And I am very grateful. You know, flatulence. We all do it, right? How you doing, Marcus? But if we can own our truth and know that, you know, we all have our days, our ups and our downs, our highs and our lows, our ins and our outs, our expansion, our contraction, our woes, our drama, some of which is amplified and phew, for all the world to see, you know? Some people live in the spotlight. But the thing is we're all here to teach one another about the other through our mirroring and expression. Like if you see something in me and you go, I really like that about her, you spot it, you got it, baby. Don't think it's just me. You recognize the spark in me that lights you up, because that is you too. And so for me, over this past week, I'm like, I want more vulnerability. I want more authenticity. I want real people in my life. I want this. I'm about to be 50 on Thursday. I want to carry forward the most beautiful people in my life for the next part of next chapter, whatever you want to call it. Because truly, I'm here for the good stuff. I'm not here to just always sit in the doom and gloom. I had plenty of that in my life, thank you. There's been my own woes. I was really dramatic over the years and when I was younger. And I'm like, some of that stuff's embarrassing to think about. But you know, at the same time, it's like, damn, I was good at it back then. But that's because I own it. If you don't own it, it'll own you. And those were the days before all these social media apps. So in saying this, the reason I'm sharing this is because not a lot of people get to see the vulnerable, tender heart of mine. There's very few people who do and have. My mother, she knew my heart the best. And she would be the one to remind me to be gentle on myself. And I'm saying that for you too, because I don't think it's just me. It's just that sometimes we need to be reminded that even though you're aware that you make a mistake or that you are at fault for something, it doesn't mean you have to be hard on yourself about it. It does not mean you need to shame yourself or to blame yourself, but to be gentle with your heart. Because just in your awareness and owning of it, it's a willingness also to grow from it. Because you owning it, you acknowledging it, you confronting and accepting it in you is giving you permission to grow and to do that for others. This is the wisdom and the compassion I have learned, that with my tender heart, I am more aware now of other people when they show up to me, though they can't see what I see, because what I see is me. And I recognize that because, again, that was me. At some point in my life, I behaved that way. And I'm not saying every once in a while somebody will show up to me. And over these past 4 years has been probably the most obvious, where I've actually had to back off and say, you know what, I'm not here to fix anybody, and I'm not here to convince them or help them see my side of the story. Here's the deal. When someone is so deep in their shit and they're unwilling to own it, you can't force them. You can't make them. And it's none of your business if they're not willing. And sometimes you got to back off of that. Because I know in my past, there were times I was so deep in my shit, I was not owning it. I had people showing up to me and telling me, Lana, protect your peace. Don't let them steal your peace. Different people would say different things to me. Just be happy. And back in the drama days, it was, how dare you tell me that? Have you not seen what is happening in my life? Have you not seen the drama? Have you not seen what they did to me? Like, seriously. And this was when I lived in Italy. So if there's any type of drama, it's all arms and, it's all blah, blah. This is a very expressive lifestyle that I lived. And so what I'm really just trying to remind anybody who gets this message is that we are the creators of our joy, of our happiness, but also our struggles and our suffering. And we get to choose how we respond or how we react. You get to be the main star of your show, your story. You are that. just like I am that for me. And sometimes you can play an extra in others, but be careful about getting stuck there too. Because sometimes somebody else's drama becomes your story too. If you hang around, you know, what do they say? If you're flying with the turkeys, you can't soar with the eagles. And the eagles often are by themselves. It's a lonely life sometimes, but you know. Whenever a person doesn't feel they have control within themselves, they will attempt to control their external world and the people around them. So that shows you unresolved traumas and issues will get projected out into the world around them. I know that from my own life, from experiencing it firsthand, that the things I did not want to look at within myself were the things I was attracting to me. Again, my inner child was like, you're not listening to me. I'm going to pull in a party. I'm going to pull in the story. We're going to go and hash it out with another person. And boy, when you get those drama scenes and you got to go through the trauma with another person each time, it gets exhausting. The resistance and it is what causes the persistence. The more it actually builds up, the more exhausting it becomes, emotionally, mentally, and physically, and spiritually too. And this is how we create dis-ease, because the internal dis-ease that you're dissing your ease. You thinking that I don't have to deal with that because it's in the past, but yet it's still there. You still think about it. You know it's there. It's like you stuck it in the backpack and you haven't let it go. If you're going to stick it in something, at least be willing to look at it first. Don't let it get dark and moldy and stinky and festering to the point where it literally is stinking up your life. I know that was a little extreme. Again, I'm a Leo. August 1st. Life is our choice. We are here to live a beautiful existence. And sometimes we do want to choose the suffering and the struggle. Our soul said, hey, how are we going to know the joys, the passion, the beauty, the happiness, unless we have the experience of the ick, the ugh, the trauma. So yeah, there's trauma and then there's drama, but ultimately it's what makes you appreciate the life of joy and happiness, because it creates the contrast. It's the duality, this polarity. This world is all about two halves of a whole. And in order to be whole, you got to recognize you are two halves, not just one whole. And so when you are whole and in perfect balance, though, those two halves being in perfect harmony together don't appear to exist. It's only when you get off balance that you notice there is even any contrast between the two, that they are two of the whole, two parts, that makes up the full truth, the full story. Duplicity becomes exclusivity. We get to choose, and it's okay to choose to have a little drama and a little trauma, but don't dwell in it. Don't get too caught up in it that you lose your childlike wonder that really wants to be here to play. Even the child will stub its toe so that it can learn to grow from that. Even stubbing the toe is like, okay, what I did to cause that, I know now to pay attention, be more present, the gift of the now. The more I am here, the more I am aware of my surroundings, I'm also aware of my internals. If we own and recognize the insides, create the outsides, again, those are the two halves of the whole. That when you are in balance internally, the external also appears to be perfectly balanced. If something is off in your external world, that is showing you the imbalance that's going on in your internal world. I am continually using this as a litmus test for my own life. And so therefore, some of the things that I've been dealing with over the past several months that I'm working on are stepping outside of my comfort zone. trying things that I've never tried before, doing things to see what I'm capable of. I'm building the resilience and the courage muscle. Because if I don't do it, who's going to do it for me? Nobody. Yeah. Exactly. You get to choose. The longer you decide to stick around in the rut, you might not get out. Someone's doing work outside. I hear something. So anyway, so as I said, whenever a person doesn't feel they have control in the internal, they will look to project it out and try to fix people around them. And the reason they'll do that is because they don't want to go within. There's an unwillingness to address the monkey business going on within. Remember, the monkeys like to fling shit at each other, expecting that the others should know what to do with it when they don't even have a clue themselves. You know, like, here, you fix me. You fix me. You're supposed to know, and you don't even know. Like, this is the crazy stuff that we create in this world. It is a divine comedy. It truly is. And when you can accept that, then life becomes a little bit more fun again. And that you don't take things and make them personal. Because believe it or not, nothing's personal. It's us humans that put all of our filters and belief systems upon it, and we make them personal. When we identify with something, we attach to it, and we hold on for dear might. Again, I'm going to point out, who really creates the suffering if you're the one holding the fist so tightly? If you're the one latching onto something so intently, you not letting go is the problem. You not allowing things to be as they are. But this is the way it's supposed to be. But it's not. And that is what creates the struggle within you, is your inability to just allow it and accept it. Because the sooner you do allow and accept things as they are, as opposed to you fighting over why they're not, or trying to make them into something they're not. Like, I mean, literally, this is the mic drop. This is the, really? Are you really still stuck on that? It hasn't changed. And it's not going to change until you decide it changes. It changes when your story changes. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and then getting mad because it doesn't change. But you're the only factor that doesn't change. In order for that to change, you got to change the way you approach it. You've got to change your patterns. You've got to fire and wire some new neurons together. You got to change up your own chemistry. Get out, go to the gym, take a walk, do something outside of your comfort zone. Do something out of your normal routine. We don't grow inside our comfort zone. And that's part of it too, is you have to get out of your own way. If you're stuck in the same patterns and same, belief systems, you're just going to attract more of that. And it's no different when someone is chronically trying to help or fix someone else instead of themselves. That's just, like I said earlier as I started this video, that is essentially, that's playing the martyr. It gives the appearance that you're doing something for another. Oh, look at me, they need me. They need me. That's your story. That's your story that you're attached to. And then you get mad when they don't appreciate you for doing that, even though they didn't necessarily ask. A lot of times people impose themselves. And it's really just a distraction from looking within and allowing yourself to see what it is you don't want to see. And an attempt to do something outside of yourself to make yourself feel better. When really what would make you feel better, and your inner child would thank you for it too, is if you just acknowledged yourself. And that the things you're trying to fix in others are the things you're not willing to change or fix in yourselves. That usually ends up being the big epiphany. That what we think needs to change in another is the one thing we're unwilling to change in ourselves. If I can get them to change that, somehow it's supposed to fix me and enable me in my inability to want to make that change for myself. Oh my gosh, did I say that out loud? I hope I didn't offend anybody. Hey, listen, we're all We're all guilty of having that at some point in our life, where all the things we're saying about another person are really just a projection of the shit we don't want to own in ourselves. It's not in every case, obviously. But people will rarely be willing to look deeper into this pattern and be honest with themselves, because it's easier to avoid confronting the underlying motives or confront the deep unconscious drivers of their actions and their behaviors and all the BS belief systems rolling through that mind. Because when you go to fix someone and you ignore the fact that that's a part of you, that's an aspect you don't like about yourself, if I can fix them, I don't have to look at my shit. And then at the same time, I'm manipulating that person into something instead of allowing them to make the change on their own, which is what you wouldn't want done to you. 9 times out of 10, we do unto others not as we would want done unto us. That's what makes us human, though, is acknowledging it, owning it, and just being an awareness of it. Like really just, whoops, whoopsie, I did a human thing. She's stupid human tricks. See me, monkey see, monkey do. Funny how that goes. It's funny how all these words and all these little rhymes, monkey see, monkey do. Oh, that's me too. We have to have humility. If we can't find humor in it, we're gonna lose the joke. And we're the ones who created this. This is since I was a little girl, I really believed that life is like a maze, that we didn't lose our way, but we're just going through the maze and we're trying to find our way back to ourselves. And that ultimately, to find our way back to ourselves is our inner child in the end. Because as you get older, one of the things I noticed when I was getting older, and I went into the professional life of this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go on, get a job and get your degrees and blah, blah, blah. I did all the things, okay? I checked off all the boxes. And then I realized I'm really not happy doing this. I think it's called a midlife crisis, although it definitely wasn't my midlife. They say it though. I was miserable. I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And yet, when I realized what I wanted to be doing, it went right back to when I was a child. All the things that brought me joy, playing and dancing and singing and drawing and writing and just being in nature, and it ends up being that the thing that you were passionate about as a child is usually the thing you will find yourself returning to. So when you're out there thinking, oh, I don't know what my purpose in life is, it's actually a lot easier to figure out than you think. If you can remember what it was you used to love to do when you were a child. What was the one thing you could say your parents would say that it couldn't stop you from doing, or you know, you just could spend hours doing it. So all of this stems from unresolved trauma that manifests into avoidance behavior. And okay, so when I started this video, I was talking about how that full moon really kind of took people off guard, and there was a lot of craziness. And I don't know where everybody else is. I'm in Florida, and where I live, Monday or Tuesday of this past week, right after that full moon, I was like, the energy, something's going on. And I pick up, I'm very sensitive, and I'm like, something's off. I was starting to notice thoughts in my mind where I was going, wait a minute, who is this? These aren't my thoughts. This isn't my way of behaving. Like, I literally didn't even want to leave my house. It was really bizarre. It was really interesting. And the only times I get like that is when I can sense there's a real disruption in the energy, in the atmosphere, in the collective, and what we are all experiencing together. I was like, wow, okay, something. Then I said, you know what it is? I know exactly what it is. Frequencies. If you're aware that we are energy, vibration, and frequency, all it takes, and we've been experiencing it all of our lives, technology, flipping up and turning up the volume. You remember that movie, Pump Up the Volume? It's kind of like in the frequencies. They've turned up and they've amped up the frequencies to disrupt your peace. Now you have to remember I come from an IT background. I was in the military. I worked in the government environment. That's the first thing that came to my mind. And I had a conversation with somebody this past week specifically about that. Juan 44 and I were passing this back and forth. In fact, it was earlier this week. You're the one I turned to and said, something's up with the energies over here. And then today I had another conversation. And I said, you know, people were talking and I said, on Thursday, we had Mercury go into Gemini and it's in the shadow. And we have some other stuff going on where people were kind of like on edge, on top of the disruption of the energies. I mean, this is the kind of energy where mental health, you want to be really attentive. Like people who are unable to emotionally regulate and be awareness of their thoughts and maybe struggle with anxiety or depression, like stay close to your peeps, check on your friends, because this is a kind of frequency that can really throw people off. If I was sensing it, all I could think of at the time was, if I'm feeling this, I can't even imagine what somebody who is not in their awareness, they're not in their regulated emotional state, their nervous system gets off real easily. Without that resilience, without that strength of knowing thyself, this is the kind of thing can totally take you out. And I don't know, and I don't want to make an assumption, nor do I want to put that type of energy out there. But it's being in your awareness that the war's on us, let's say, that you are targeted at times in your life, and don't take that like, oh my gosh, the henny penny, the sky's falling. No, it's more like, just be more cognizant of your thoughts. Just recognize, are those my thoughts? If you're meditating daily, you're going to notice what's yours and what isn't. Like, there's a point where sometimes you'll be meditating and maybe you're so sensitive like I am, I could pick up my neighbor's thoughts around the neighborhood where I'm like, yep, that's not mine. And that could have been what I was feeling actually, or sensing or hearing. I didn't even consider that. But I was speaking with some friends at the juice bar today, and they were saying, you know, everybody was having migraines. And I didn't get a migraine. I actually haven't done coffee for well over a month right now. So I'm actually impressed, because I love coffee, but it also takes away from the minerals and things. So you have to choose your passion. I do it once in a while. I love coffee. Actually, I have had these delicious little chocolate bars that have chocolate, lion's mane and coffee. They're really, really good. They're Urban Remedy, I think they're called. You can find them at Whole Foods. So I'm having this conversation and they mentioned the migraines, and I went to the neuromuscular therapist the other day and I got a really nice adjustment, and everything I needed, right? Like, felt really good. Plus I had acupuncture this past week too. That was another thing. Body work really helps. That's all I can say. Massages, all that. Yes, please. So I started to kind of almost feel like I might have a migraine, because I was feeling the tension. And especially if you're somebody who clenches your jaw, all of these areas tighten up and it travels down. Like, it's not like I just clenched my jaw. Look at all this. You notice it's a domino effect. It literally, by clenching here, tightens here. It actually, by clenching your jaw, will compress the vertebrae in your cervical spine, in your neck. And that travels down the back, down into the shoulders, down the arms, and all the way down and into your hip creases, where we store a lot of emotions. So I'm having that conversation, and I said, it's funny you just brought that up, because as a matter of fact, I noticed this at the beginning of the week, and I mentioned how I know it's the amping up the frequencies. Because if they can disrupt, remember this, you are 80 to 90% water. If you have a frequency that is like these phones, which is, constantly, emitting EMFs. If you don't know what EMF is, it's an electromagnetic pulse. It's a frequency. And if that pulse is coming at you, you don't see it. See, this is the silent frequency, the silent energy that is utilized against us. And so if it is pointing at you and it's and we increase that, it's disrupting just like a microwave. That's what this is. That's why I don't use microwaves too. This is essentially what it is. And when I was in the military, people who worked in radar sites around the microwave equipments and technology, they had problems, cancers and all sorts of stuff. It is the technology. Though the irony is nobody can actually point a finger at it because it is unseen by the naked eye. Some things you can see up in the sky. But this is where people forget that we are being targeted in a way that you would not expect. And if you do it, just, you know, it's like boiling the frogs in the water. You just keep turning it up slowly. They have no clue they're being boiled. And that's the same thing that's being done to you and me. Yeah, I said that out loud. This is the kind of thing that when I was, and I haven't even talked a lot about this one on this channel. When I had my TikTok account, I had a really good one actually. Was it 3.5 years ago? And it got completely disabled on the device, not just the actual account. Because all I was doing was sharing my personal experiences from my past about what I used to do and the things that I was exposed to in the military and the government environments. And somebody came in and I was literally blowing up. I was starting to go viral and somebody came into one of my lives and they said, I just tried to follow you and your account's gone. And I was like, as soon as I turned, you know, I clicked the end live, the whole thing blew away. And it told me, you're not only disabled, but your whole device is also disabled. I'm like, really? So this is just ironic. Isn't it ironic? Because this is the world we're living in. It's like a caste system. You have to go along to get along, to play in their sandbox. And so this whole trying to force you into submission through your, you know, choosing words wisely as such. The reality is, the more of us that speak up, I mean, you can't keep us all quiet. I mean, some people get a chance to say a lot of things that make you go, how come they're allowed to say things, but some of us aren't? I don't know, doesn't really matter. But you can make stories up about it if you like, because everything's a story. So anyway, we're not even going to talk we're not even going to talk religion, because that's part of the control mechanism as well. But the Bible is actually the guide of how to deal with the money changers and how to live your life. The characters, it's all parables, they're all stories, and if you can recognize that, just don't get attached to someone else saving you. That the Christ consciousness is you, it's within you. There is no separate person. Jesus was the Son. That was the metaphor for that. And it's in each and every one of us. So these ideas of religion to me are just another form of manipulation and control of the masses. Just my 2 cents. And yes, I was raised Catholic. That doesn't make me good or bad. There were a lot of things that I really took to heart that made sense to me. My Sacred Heart, where I was baptized, by the way. That the reality is do unto others you would want done unto you. To me, the golden rule is a rule for life. Why would you do something to someone that you wouldn't want done to you? And there is no inconsequential lie. So when you lie to yourself, you break your own heart. When you lie to another, that's lying to yourself and that's breaking your own heart. When you got a finger pointing out and you're blaming and shaming another, you're 3 daggers back at you. Your past, your present, your future. You're breaking your own heart. We're not here to harm each other, but we harm ourselves through harming others too. It really is that deep. And when we start to recognize how we've been used in this Ponzi scheme of life against one another, rather than recognizing what we have in common more than not, Oh, we are so much more powerful together. United we stand, divided we fall. Humans in unity is what creates humanity. You want a community? Come together in unity. You want life to change? Be the change you want to see in the world. Don't be that crazy person expecting everything outside of you to change without with your inability to want to make a change. A lot of times people, that's the part people don't get about that quote by Gandhi, that be the change you want to see in the world means you have to be willing to do something different in order to get a different result. Because that's karma. Karma is doing the same thing over and over again. Same thing as crazy. Karma and crazy are pretty much the same definition. They just hadn't told you that. So I had something come up this past week, and I was actually kind of sad by it. And I was able to recognize and have compassion for the other individual, but not necessarily have to accept the reaction I got at the same time. Because it's like I said earlier, you know, it really boils down to this. We all have these ideas about how a relationship should look, how it should be, what we want, but it's not always going to be that way. And so therefore you have to pick and choose the relationships that nurture you. If you're not nurturing it, you're not, you know, watering your own grass, how do you expect it to grow? Again, put the mask on. The oxygen mask has to be on you before you can put it on others too. So it's really, again, the lifeline to others is the lifeline through you. You have to start with self. Everything starts with self. David R. Hawkins, one of my favorite books, Power versus Force. Everything starts with self. When you can come from that perspective, then you start to see it all around you. You start to realize, ah, that is me too. I am that. That is me. I am that I am. Moses on the mountain. I am that I am. If a relationship has to have all the drama of people needing to be right, it's not a receptive flow. It's just ego. And we all have it. It can be on both sides. Because the heart is the one that seeks to be happy. It's the head that gets in the way and leads you astray. When we can be heart to heart and vulnerable, as I shared earlier, this is one of my things, is I want to be vulnerable with people I can trust. But see, the trust has to start with myself. And even then, I can't trust that I trust myself. There's a paradox and a whole thing I've been unpacking this past week that's just like, what's wrong with it? Is there anything wrong with it? And why did I decide that not being able to trust myself was a bad thing? Can I hold that with grace and be okay with? Maybe sometimes I do make a choice that's not a good choice. It's okay. I'm human. But I'm here for the experiences and I'm here for the adventure. That's what I know about myself. That I came here for these crazy times. I came here to have fun despite them. I'm not here to be the chaos. But I am the storm. So like a week ago, I literally was in the storm and I realized that it was me. And that's where I go back to I shared that in my last video, that the storm around me was just a reflection of me. And if you can own that, then you can start to harness that energy of the storm and you can alchemize that and you can use that power, harness it and direct it where you want to go, where you want to flow. That's how you grow, is recognizing if you're going to be the storm and you're going to own it around you, then you also have that moral obligation to yourself and nobody else to be in integrity with it, to really be willing to step into it. Whew. There's nothing light about it. I mean, some of us are realizing, wow, I got some big shoes to fill. I got something to step into. And we're going through a grieving process. And I bring this up so often in the past, my previous videos, I really want to remind people, when you are feeling any sense of inner turmoil, the real grace that we need to give ourselves, the real space, the sacred space, is in acknowledging that each and every one of us is going through such a truly monumental shift, vibration, frequency, energy, but also in this life that nobody has ever experienced, in this universe, in this existence. That this is a huge part of this time, these times, is that we came to go through it, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to feel grief, that we're not going to mourn the past too. And that when you notice, melancholy, sadness, can I just crawl back into bed? I don't wanna. Can you be okay with that? Because that's grief. Those are different forms of grief. That is part of the mourning process of change. And this monumental shift and change that we're all going through, we're creating this new world, whether you like it or not. A choice is a choice, even if you don't choose it. That during these beautiful times, you're going to find it really wasn't that bad as you thought it was. Because when we get onto that other side, you're going to be like, holy shit, I think I'm actually able to do this. I think I can get through this. You did it. You're already getting through it. That's the grace you need to give yourself. And the time to acknowledge, oh shit, it's change. It's just change, like death, you know. It's just a shift. My life is dying over here. I'm being reborn. This is the phoenix, right? You are the phoenix rising. We are all the phoenix rising. We are all changing. We're not who we were yesterday. We're sure as hell not going to be the same person tomorrow either. So when you can harness that and take that fire within you as you're burning away the old, you can also channel it into the new, using whatever creative outlets, whatever comes up, whatever you feel compelled to do. For me, for my birthday, I'm going to go have dinner with some beautiful women that I love having in my life. And I think it's also going to be a night of dancing. Why? I wanted to be a dancer when I was younger. There's a lot of things I wanted to do. I still do them. I haven't been doing them, but I recognize that's what's missing. That when you are not doing the things that bring your heart joy, that's what kills your joy. When you feel depressed, it's because you haven't expressed yourself. When you don't feel creative, it's because you're feeling depleted. So therefore, you need to do something to stir that back up in you. You have to churn your own butter. You got it, you know? Yeah. And no matter what's going around you, there's a lot of people that are going to act out their anger, their discomfort. Again, been there, done that in my past, like I expressed, and it's a beautiful thing. Can you honor them in that? It doesn't mean you have to participate in it, but you can actually look at them from your own life. If you're in the space to do that and go, wow, look at you in your beautiful mess. I honor you. Instead of trying to disgrace them or shame them or blame them for acting out or misbehaving or what have you. I know that's like some deep shit. That's when you hit a level that you can tolerate pretty much anything and everything and not let it affect you or take it on as you or identify it to the point where you're trying to resist it and create like the struggle. That is when you drop the suffering, you drop the attachment to it, and you're just in the awe of all of it. That when someone is in their beautiful mess, I've been in many, and looked in the mirror and been like, look at you in your beautiful mess. Just soak it up. Just be fully in it. Because there's some wisdom in that. Yeah, there are no bad choices. Remember what I said? There are no mistakes, just choices. When you think you made a mistake, you just make another choice. It's not a mistake. You continue to make choices. Life is a series of choices. And those choices create a story, the story of your life, the one that exists to be true as it was, untouched by you and the story that you tell about it. It's all beautiful. Nobody owes anybody anything either. And as much as people don't like to hear that, as much as it also pains me to say it sometimes, because I'm like, I'll tell you, I got that from my past. Like, many a time I see where I got taken advantage of. I'm like going, really? Really? Like, who the hell does this shit? Like, why? But nobody owes us anything. And we don't owe anybody anything either. What we really do have an obligation to do is give ourselves humility. Stay in our integrity as much as you can. Just be in your authenticity. Having grace and ease. And recognizing. Stop thinking that because they didn't meet your expectations, that's an addiction to having everything your way, that they owe you that. If you didn't communicate it and you didn't express it, but you kept going through life expecting it, whose fault is that? But don't beat yourself about it. Just be in awareness of it. Like, oh, look at that. Holy shit. I created some drama there. I created a little storm in my life. Like the Tasmanian devil. Just total mess all around you. Bull in a china shop. We're all capable of it. We can all own it and not let it own us. And it applies to every one of us. So like I tell you this, because I know it. I spot it because I got it. I've been it. I've done it. Yeah. Life is good. So I'm going to bid you adieu. My birthday's coming up. I'm going to be 50. It doesn't feel like it's just a number. It's just a number. So thank you for showing up. Let me know in the comments what stood out the most for you, and share this if it helps someone else too. Click the notifications bell so you don't miss my videos. And let me know what maybe you want me to talk about in the future. If there's something that you would like advice on, I would be more than willing to do a talk on it here on this video. So yeah, go be you. Do what you do that brings joy to you. Lots of love from my heart to yours.